You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by footballstadiumprints.com. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped! Yes! And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. Is Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
And it is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Get the game day outfit pressed. It is days away from game one, friends. This is the People's Pitch podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I'm your host, John. I'm flying without my regular partner in crime today as he's recovering from his tummy tuck surgery. But I'm pleased to welcome back to the show to help me preview Sunday's match, the Dan Hoedeman. Dan, welcome back to the show in a little bit of a different capacity.
I'm always happy to be on the show, and I'm particularly happy for Nate. And, I hope he can really embrace his true self.
I mean, he's trying to get ready for Sexy Boy Summer. I'm totally here for it.
I am too, and I can't wait to see him up in the booth.
So we have a very focused show today, folks. This week, seeing that it's game week, Dan and I are going to break down a preview of our game one opponent, RKC Third Coast. Excuse me. Allergies are real, folks, as well, so I might be clearing my throat a lot or coughing. Then we'll bring you a one-on-one or a two-on-one, I guess you could say. An overload with associate head coach Tudor Flintham. Dan, are you ready to get this going?
No. Wait, yes. Yes. No, I am.
Even if you said no, I'm going to keep going. Well, since entering USL2, we found it to be a total reality that every team is good. They're good at soccer. In the past, at least in the NPSL and specifically the UPSL, we saw only maybe a handful of teams that continued to kind of bring in quality year in and year out to compete for a conference title. This reality check in year one was very real as we saw upstart Peoria City turn up with a roster packed full of like A-list solid college players that could totally ball out. And that essentially led us to turning the page to another year with the conference realignment. We once again faced an unknown upstart in Racine or RKC Third Coast, excuse me. No one knew who they were and what they would offer up on the field. And then in game one against them, 5 balls in the back of the net later, and we knew just who they were. A well-funded summer home for talented older college players who were really ready to make that next step. So in 4 meetings with the Crows that dates back to May of 2023, the Third Coast has had City's number, winning all 4 meetings with a plus goal differential of 15. So it has been one-sided. So needless to say, this will be straight away a test for Minneapolis City on a short turnaround considering that some players arrived just yesterday at training, Dan.
No, absolutely. And, this has always been a tough one for us, but we've always been competitive. I mean, even in that first game, they put up 5, we put up 3. It was goal to goal. I think there were 5 goals in the first half of that 8-goal thriller. But you can't take anything away from RKC. Super successful first campaign where they got their playoff spot behind Thunder Bay. Just missed off on the playoffs last season. And, if we look at what they've been able to do, a ton of goals, a ton of points. They're always challenging. And we saw them last year. They had the MLS number 2 pick. And actually, the MLS number 54 draft pick was the long-haired guy with the sweet beard who put up 2 goals against us in the game at Edo Nelson.
I believe you're referencing Colin McCamey.
They always have great players. And I think we're gonna see great players again today. I mean, the funny thing is, you look at some of their lesser heralded players, and they're still pros playing in USL League One, in the third division. But nonetheless, when we are going to roll out against them, we're going to see some real talent, some real athleticism. Like, these guys are going pro.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're talking about historically, 2023 when they came in their first campaign, they earned a playoff spot in year one, essentially being just points, like minuscule number of points behind Thunder Bay. They were 8 wins, 1 draw, 5 losses with 35 goals for, which was a league high, and 20 goals against, tallying 25 points, just 4 shy of first place and 7 points ahead of third place. So right there, Dan, like in year one, like we knew like these guys, whatever they're doing, they get it.
And a lot of it comes down to talent, right? And the talent showed. They did great that first season in 2023.
Absolutely. And then you turn the page into last season, they restocked the shelves, seeing you mentioned 3 players getting drafted, and then 3 or 4 signing pro contracts with the USL. So right there was a testament of the level of draw that they have for top talent. And if not for a late 3-point victory over St. Croix by the Bavarians, it would have been a second straight year of them earning a playoff spot.
I mean, you're absolutely right. They barely missed, and they finished last year 6 wins, 1 draw, 5 losses. So, look pretty similar to what they were previously. 21 goals for, 16 against, so it was 19 points. Like you mentioned, John, 2 points off the playoff spot, 2 points above St. Croix. We saw last season it was a lot more compacted in the middle of the table with teams, and particularly St. Croix doing a nice job of take points off of teams above them like RKC. And of course, the Mighty Crows taking points off of 2 wins off of the league winners Thunder Bay. So, as much as I think it's appropriate to talk up the quality that RKC brought, great talent, MLS draft picks, future pros, challenging for the playoffs, up until the very end of the season. The fact is, though we haven't taken any points off of them yet, it was a really even division. And, I'm excited to see what this year is going to bring, because it seems like as we get more used to the season, used to them, we're not going to be surprised by what they're able to bring in terms of quality, pace, power.
Yeah, absolutely. And excuse me, if you're talking parity, Dan, we saw the 35 goals for in season 1, and then 21 goals for in season 2 in 2024. I mean, that you could kind of equate to the fact that they had a 15 goal scorer in year 1 that is now playing for San Antonio in the USL2 and having quite a great intro to his pro career. But going back to the fact that the Crows are winless in 4 outings with RKC, what do you feel was the difference over the past 2 years? We've already talked about talent, but was there anything else that you saw with either the organizational setup or just anything beyond good players that can play ball?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to the first season, you can't ignore good players playing ball. Ethan Horde, who is the forward you're talking about, playing in San Antonio, dominated League 2 in 2023, scored a bucket of goals against us. When you're big, fast, strong, able to use both feet in your head, like, no wonder they scored more goals with him than without. But you hit on something, which is, with the type of players that they bring in, a little bit more seasoned, a little bit older, coming from, colleges with really good pedigree. But more than that, the players themselves with really good pedigree, what I've noticed from them is they're able to take advantage of any type of lapse. So we've seen things like, we're in their half, we're controlling the ball, we're kind of probing, one slip, boom, they're quick at us, and they're really able to overload, really able to press our defense. There's a lot of tactical flexibility for them in terms of they're willing to go up to the big man. They're willing to hit the channels. And if they need to slow it down, they can slow it down. And it's just, I hate to use the cliche, John, but it's a lot of veteran play I've seen from them. And
sure,
they see the mistake and they exploit it right away. And they've got a ton of weapons to exploit it with.
Yeah, I think well coached too. I don't remember his name, but the assistant coach for Marquette men's soccer team in Division 1 was their head coach. I believe he's still their head coach. But yeah, it just speaks to what you said. Like they had a very diverse playing style. They had the horses that can run any race, whether it's on dry dirt, in the mud, whatever it could be, and that's difficult for a team at our level to, one, establish, but also to be able to deploy in a short summer.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we saw in our NPSL days is that, we were really that team. And what we're seeing, I think, in USL2 is, we may still have that mentality, but we've got to make sure that there are no slips, because, the thing that's kind of surprised me from RKC every year is, they're not just good players. They're not just well coached. They're big.
Yeah.
Big dudes. They're fast. They're quick. They're fast. They don't flag. There's just kind of a lot about them athletically, which I know a lot of times when you talk soccer, people kind of poo-poo that, but like, they're good players and they have those physical tools. And, that's a thing that we've got to, we just got to learn how to handle. And that's what I'm looking forward to for us, because, we get smarter every year. And so can we rise to that challenge? This year we'll see.
All right, Dan, well, why don't you tell the folks on how they can get involved with the game?
I would love to do that. And it all starts online. So fans, go to mplscitysc.com. Go there right now. We got single game tickets for Sunday's home opener. We kick off at 5:30. We're going to run you $8 for a student, $12 for an adult. And here's what I really suggest, because this is a smart thing. And if you're podcasting with John and Nate, I know you're smart people. Skip the single game purchase. Grab yourself a 2025 season ticket. Season ticket memberships are great. You get your season ticket. You get your unique member scarf. You get some flex tickets. You get a bunch of other goodies. It's a great deal. And you get to see the Crows all season long at Edor Nelson Field. But it starts on Sunday. Kickoff is 5:30 p.m. And we will see you in downtown Minneapolis, right off of I-94. One thing that's worthwhile noting is our new sponsor, Noonan Golf. They're going to be there. They're going to be ready to tee off the season with everyone. And it's been pretty fun. What can golf caddies do at a soccer game? You're going to find out. And with, dry, beautiful 60-degree weather, you should definitely be there on Sunday.
It has taken us a bit, but we finally are ready to deliver a member of the USL2 coaching staff. Our guest this week is the newly minted head coach of St. John's University, where he currently holds an undefeated MIAC record of 0-0-0. Prior to joining the Johnnies, he had an extremely successful run in charge of Gustavus, where he compiled a 92, 20, and 18 record over 7 seasons, bagging 2 MIAC Coach of the Year honors in 2018 and 2022, guiding the Gusties to 5 MIAC championships, 5 NCAA Division III appearances in total. All of this leading to being a perennial placeholder in the top 25 rankings, leveling out at number 3 nationally in 2024. And since I know City fans love an undefeated regular season, this guy had 2 of them. But to end the love fest, at his time in St. Peter, Minnesota, he produced 22 All-MIAC, 19 All-Region, and 15 All-Americans. Of course, I have the pleasure today, and Dan does as well, to be speaking with Minneapolis City Associate Head Coach Tudor Flintham. Welcome to the show, man. So happy to finally get you on the show. And did I miss anything in that intro?
You did not. That was quite the introduction. Thank you very much. And I'm thrilled to be here finally.
It's a wonder what a little Googling will do, right?
I've been lucky. I've had some good players.
So seeing this is your first show, please tell the listeners your height, weight, eye color for the fans. Totally kidding there. We ask all of our first-time guests the real same question. Tell us about your soccer journey from the beginnings all the way to how you entered the nest with Minneapolis City.
Oh, geez. That's a long story. I'll try to keep it short. But I'm from the UK, originally from North Wales, but was raised in England, kind of in and around the academy system. Always, like many people over there, kind of aspiring to be a professional soccer player. Ultimately ended up my last couple of years with a Southampton satellite academy. It was still based in East Anglia. That was kind of coming to different tournaments around Europe and a couple in North America. We came to the USA Cup back in the days when it was, Celtic and Saprissa, and I think even Portsmouth and West Ham came out with Joe Cole and Peter Crouch, and kind of our running joke was we won a trophy that those guys didn't have. So we got a little bit of silverware that Peter Crouch doesn't have. But that's really what just made me fall in love with America and Minnesota specifically. And I kind of made the choice right then that I was gonna stay in Minnesota. I went to college at St. John's, which is where I coach right now. So it's my alma mater. I had an incredible college experience, ended with a MIAC championship as a player, and quickly realized that I wanted to stay in coaching. My first coaching stint was out in Portland, Oregon, where I was an age group director for FC Portland Academy, but I was working alongside the University of Portland coaching staff and incredible staff. So the first college session I was ever a witness to involved Megan Rapinoe and her twin sister and Christy Sinclair. So straight away I got very, very lucky to fall into a very, very high level soccer environment, and I was just hooked from there. Had some success just from kind of shadowing some of these, top coaches in the country and US national team coaching staff, and kind of just grafted that into all of the other coaching that I was doing. So I ended up being Oregon State Coach of the Year and doing some cool things out there before I decided, hey, I want to get into college coaching. Had a couple of stints as a associate head coach at St. John's, and then went down to Nebraska Wesleyan and figured out pretty quickly that I had a knack of making programs pretty competitive. And again, just got fortunate with my resume and the opportunity at the time to take over Gustavus. And he obviously gave the introduction. We had a lot of success. I think one of the things I've done well is I've recruited good players. So I've always been blessed to have very, very talented guys around us, and it's gone pretty well. Yeah.
So,
sorry, go on.
So you were on the fringes of Minneapolis City for a handful of years, placing your players with the program for the summer months.
Yeah.
Was there anything in particular that made City stand out when you were looking for a summer home for your talent?
Yeah, that's kind of where it all begins, I suppose. Is I was a fan before I was a coach, and the reason I was a fan was I was watching and placing guys like Artie Parents and Mookie, Matt Murakami, and obviously Matt Gibbons, Charlie Adams, the OG. So I just kind of fell in love with watching those guys play. I love coaching them, and then you got to see them in, arguably a more competitive level with some of the quality around. And I'm coming to games, and the fan base was just a little different than any other club, like just a lot more passionate, and reminded me really a lot of the grassroots fan bases back home. It was kind of the closest thing that I had seen in the United States to like a real community club, and that I think is pretty much when I was hooked. And alongside the fact that just the club treated my players extremely well, and there wasn't ever a guy that came back to my program, not fitter, not better, and without saying, hey, I just had an amazing summer and I'm ready to win championships for you. So it was just a win-win for everyone involved.
So the turnover rate for coaches at the pre-professional level can be high, especially when you're coupling it with the fact that being a coach in a club like ours is not a massive source of income for the summer, when you could be benefiting from what you potentially could get in the youth soccer landscape. Last season, we were presented with the need for a coaching change, and it was a unique one as the season had already started. What was the final poll that caused you to toss your hat in the ring?
Honestly, it wasn't much of a debate. It was as soon as I had found out, and Matt was really the guy that kind of approached me and said, hey, there might be an opportunity here. The club needs some new direction. I had a few personal things going on in my life that I needed to resolve back in England with some family that was back there. So it was more about figuring out, was I able to come in as a head coach, as an assistant coach, associate head coach. And when we found out that Justin was also interested in being involved, and from the outside, I think people were like, wow, how does that work? Gustavus and St. Olaf, they must hate each other. Justin and I are great friends. I respect him massively professionally and love him personally. So it was just a super easy decision. I think it was about a week of just figuring out kind of logistics of when we could start and exactly what the roles were going to be. And then it was done.
So you mentioned, you've known Justin Oliver for some time, and at face value, there is that like Gustavus versus St. Olaf thing. What makes your relationship so cohesive and so successful?
One, I think he's very knowledgeable. So that's the first thing, is I respect his soccer knowledge and his view of the game. We're also quite similar. I think a lot of times you want a staff that, maybe there's different strengths and weaknesses. That can work really, really well. The other thing that can work is if that you're extremely aligned, and then you can just cover much more, distance and not have to worry about, trusting that the right information is going to get passed on from either way. So we're just really, really in sync in terms of soccer in general. And then also he's just a really sincere person. So I think the Oliver brothers in general, but obviously I work with Justin, are pretty misunderstood because they're quite fiery and people kind of see the sideline at times. But they just, Justin's just a very knowledgeable, very professional guy who is sincere. He is who he is, and he cares deeply. And like you said, we're not really doing this for the money. We could probably make more money doing other things, but we do it because we love the club, we love coaching, and we enjoy working together.
So one more from me for a little bit, so people can stop hearing my voice, and Dan can take over for a couple questions. Excuse me. Looking back on what we'll call an interesting first year with the club last season that you had, give us your take on the lows and the highs, as well as any learnings you might be focused on in this now first full season with the club.
Yeah, good question. I mean, straight away, you're coming into a situation that isn't ideal because the team isn't yours. You haven't picked the players. The player IDs are very different. Carl's style, and I think again, just player ID preferences are very different from Justin and I. So you're going to have to kind of patchwork things together a little bit. There weren't a ton of surprises though, because I mean we've been around the community. We've been supporters of the club, so we knew a lot of the players. Just the biggest challenges were just short notice, not really having a ton of say about what the squad composition was. And then it was just you get on with the job, right? Like we have a certain style, a certain system, certain way of playing, and how could we get some of these guys to buy into that and kind of understand some of the nuances of those systems. But I think this year, we had talented players last year. We certainly had some very good players. But I think the reality was maybe lacking a little bit of depth, but more importantly than that, was the player ID, like the type of player that you need to play the style that we want to play versus what we have now. And I mean, the strength and depth in every single position is kind of wild. We haven't had 100% of the squad together, but we've got to see at least in 2 training sessions each, I think probably 95% of the squad. And just off the top of my head, what strikers, Preston, Shea, Joey H, Mitch, Jared, that's a unit that's going to cause some problems. Your wing backs, Morgan, Miz, Andrew, Elijah Fearing, Bernard, Andy, way more dynamic. 1v1 attacking, they can defend, they can get around edges, they can beat guys 1v1. We had a training session yesterday with, you've got Jackson, Ian, Swallen, Joey T, and Otis, and all of them are just absolute ballers. And then again, like your defensive unit of Cole, Curtis, Nick, Jared, Jonah, and Cecil Nolan. I mean, we legitimately, I think that starting 11 or a group of 11 from that can compete with anyone in USLT.
Sure. All right, Dan, you take away for a couple questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of teed me up really well, Tudor. So, like you said, this year you, Justin, and then Casey Holm, you guys were all involved with the roster building from the get-go. So instead of inheriting a team, you were able to build it the way you wanted. If you could oversimplify your approach, what's your number one attribute that you guys are looking for when you're trying to choose a player?
Number one, I guess there isn't really just one, right? Like you have to be physically gifted. Like that is the difference. Like there's a lot of skillful technical players. and you have to have that, right? Like, we want to dominate the game with the ball, but you can't be just that. You can't be a 5-7 team of guys that just want to connect 10-yard passes and just be technical. You have to be able to fight teams as well. So to be able to have guys like, Preston, who's like 6'4", 220. Jared is 6'6", 230, right? Like, some of that stuff, you have to have a bit of a balance in your team, and you have to be able to, again, technically do the things that you want to do and dominate with the ball. But there's nothing more demoralizing to the other team than, hey, these guys can play and we can't get close to them technically, but they're just going to smack us in the mouth as well.
Yeah, John and I were calling Preston Hulk when we were watching him last night, and but you're right. He's very skillful. I saw him
very good,
great first touch in a spin, and he blew past one of our defenders, and you're floored. I mean, I hate to use the cliche, right? But like, good touch for a big man, but he sure does.
Yeah, he does.
Yes, I wouldn't want to defend him. I'll tell you that much. So you're talking about the physical attributes, and that's maybe the number one thing you'd look for. I know you've oversimplified. Would you say that was a big difference in how the team has been built this year versus maybe previous years? Is that trying to get the technical quality with athleticism?
Yeah, that's definitely been a factor. That was something we looked at last year, where we felt like we were small and not necessarily as powerful in some areas that we needed to be. But part of it is also, I think, positional. So your midfielders, you need a balance, right? But like, those are the guys that need to be, very agile, cover short distances, pretty twitchy, but great awareness, good with a pass, break lines, all of that kind of stuff. But your wing backs need to be able to just burst past people 1v1 and be a slightly different kind of athleticism, right? Like, it's a little bit more, hey, can I win my 1v1 individual duels? It's a little bit more linear. And your strikers, you need a balance. So like, yeah, Preston and Joey H would be, almost 500 pounds of scary striker, but you throw Shea up there, and Shea's obviously more my size, like 5'9" and twitchy and intelligent with his runs and more of kind of more of like a big man, little man. So you have to have a blend and a balance, I think. But we were very intentional about making sure that we had a specific athlete and technical player type in each position.
I mean, one of the things that's been interesting to see is, there's been a broader set of colleges that we've drawn players from than perhaps in previous seasons. As a group of 3 successful college coaches yourself, you, Justin, and Casey, like, did that make it easier to get other coaches on board with what you're doing this summer so that they'd agree to release the players to City? Like, could you guys speak their language better?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that's fair to say. I think part of that is we're very, we've all been very successful in our own rights in the college setting. And part of that is we work very hard and we have, I'd like to think, pretty good relationships with people in the community. So guys like Pat, who's at Drake right now and is crushing it at Drake, we all knew him from his UChicago days. And again, he's sent a number of very, very talented players to us, but we see him at showcases all around the country. And we're connecting with these different programs, Division I programs especially. We're networking at every single showcase event. We're not just looking for players for our own programs. So that's a little piece of it. But the biggest thing for that is just making sure that people have a good experience, make sure that they feel like they're part of an exciting project, that they're taken care of. Obviously, the fans really do a fantastic job of that at City. That's different from anyone else in the conference. So I think that is certainly a pull. And then obviously being in Minneapolis, like, it's not a bad place to spend your summer.
No, definitely not. There are worse in our league, that's for sure.
For sure.
Well, with a full offseason and preseason in the books, can you give the fans, from an insider's perspective, a few things that they should know that you are most looking forward to in 2025?
Yeah. I think everyone understood the assignment last year. It was steady the ship and let's make us more competitive. And it was, Justin and I have talked, it was satisfying to be able to walk away and say, we're not used to, being, just above a 500 team. We're used to, winning championships and going deep runs at nationals and stuff like that. But it was extremely satisfying to say, hey, we steadied the ship and we had the most successful season in the USL2 era. With that said, now we've been involved for a full year now. We've had full say with the roster composition, with the staffing piece of it, with the way that we want to train, the system, all of that stuff. And the roster has improved drastically in our opinion. So the expectations have leveled up as well. That's not something that Justin and I are going to shy away from. In fact, I think we're very excited about that. So this isn't a steady the ship kind of stabilizing season. I think we're expecting to go out there and compete right at the top of the division. I think it will take a game maybe to get our full squad together. I like our team for Sunday a lot. I think we've got a really, really strong team, and I think we can get 3 points. But I'd say we're still missing 1 or 2 guys that I think will make a big difference. So Swallen is absolutely fantastic, and not having him for Sunday, for instance, would be an example. But I think it'll take maybe a game for the fans to see the full group together. But straight away, day one on Sunday, I think they'll get a good look at what we're going to be about, and it's going to be a fun style for sure.
Well, you mentioned Jake Swallen, but my next question kind of leads into that, and it could be him. Are there any players in particular that you're really excited for?
I mean, Justin and I would probably answer this slightly differently. So, like, I know Shea, for instance, because I've coached against him for 5 years. And I'm super excited to work with that guy. I've heard stories about how he trains, how he works, and obviously I've had personal interactions with him over the last couple of weeks, and I think Shea is a fantastic player and a great addition to the team. Preston, I recruited into Gustavus. I thought there was an outside shot that we might get him. Preston is a great player, but an awesome person. Jake for sure. Jake's going to be fantastic. Jackson Kirsch had an unbelievable training session yesterday. I think he's going to be fantastic. I've not met Andrew yet, but I've heard really good things about Andrew as well. And I think from what I've seen of him, I think he'll fit in really well. But yeah, I think there's a pretty long list, and along with that is guys I've worked with previously. Like last summer was my first summer I got to work with Miz, and Miz is just a wonderful player and a super cool human, like great guy to work with. Morgan Olsen and the list goes on. So they're just a really fun group right now, and I think energized by the project and the elevated expectations as well.
Just dripping with talented players. Like to hear it. So you had 2 swings at our opponent for Sunday in RKC last season. Yeah. Dan and I spent the opening of the show, talking about them. But what was your take on them from the 2024 season? And being that you have your pulse on the college game and are in that regional coaching circle and national coaching circle, is there anything that you know about them and how they might be this summer?
Yeah, good question. The first game of the year is always the toughest because you just don't have a reliable scout, and that's at every single level, club, college, USL2 as well. So especially with new coaching staff, from what I understand, okay. I think we've got a general sense of what they would do, but we've got a couple of plans in place, so we're ready to adapt relatively quickly if we need to. But I think we'll be okay from the kind of analyzing the coaching staff perspective. But the biggest part is, their midfield last year was outrageous. All 3 of their midfield are playing professionally now, and one of them went number 2 in the draft for the MLS. So, that was obviously a pretty big strength for them. So for them to lose all 3 of them will obviously be big holes. I'd imagine they'll have very good players. They've obviously filled those gaps. But yeah, I think their team is probably going to have some questions and be searching for a bit of an identity. I would imagine versus I think where we are is I think with Justin and I, a year under our belt, I think we're probably more clear on who we are.
Well, you set up maybe a good swing to this next question, because you and Justin, presumably you're used to an environment where you can develop talent year after year, right? And
Yep.
as you look at things over the seasons, recruit guys to fill a roster hole and sort of to plan progression. So when you think about USL2, where it's a little bit different, though we have some, I think, better continuity than maybe most clubs at this level, it can still be a little bit of chop and change. So as you look at that, like what's the most challenging, what's the most exciting thing about kind of coaching in this level in a league and a season structure where it presumably is a lot harder to build on, what you did the year before, you're kind of starting over, each summer season?
Yeah, great question. I think City's a little bit different, a little bit unique. I mean, there's certainly an element of that is true. But there is also a part of City kind of attracts these club legends. So guys like, the Kent brothers or Jonah Garcia that is coming back for his 25th season with the club, I think, or something like that. Otis Anderson is probably going to be in that situation. But the club has had these servant players over years and years and years. So I think we'll always have a little bit of that. The catchment area of Minneapolis, again, I think will always continue to attract, the best Minnesota talent for sure as well. But yeah, part of that is going to be it's guys moving on and either retiring out of soccer or maybe they go and play pro. So yeah, we will just continue to have positive relationships with guys like Pat at Drake and maybe Nico down at Creighton and some of the other guys that we have ties in with. And again, make sure that the guys have good experiences and that they recruit for us ultimately, right? I think that will be a key.
And speaking of that, it seems like recruiting's a lot easier if you've found some success. So
For sure.
as you and Justin are talking, like what is your ultimate measure of success for this summer?
Yeah, good question again. I mean, me personally, my coaching mantra is always just leave it better than you found it. So I progress is progress. I just want to improve on last year. I think that's your baseline measurement, right? Like we want to be more competitive. We want to win more games. We want to be in the conversation for winning the league championship heading into the last week of the season. I do think maybe Jay would be mad at me for saying this, but I do think this squad is good. So if we can stay healthy and we can make sure that we've got guys at pretty much every game. Obviously, those away games are some challenges at times, but if we can make sure that our best 18 are available for most of the season, I think we can compete for a championship.
Well, I got a good 6 minutes left in my body, so if you need me, I'm there for you.
Let's go. Lace it up.
Well, Tudor, so glad that you joined up with us tonight. It's always great to add another like-minded member to the staff that kind of shares the same ideals on and off of the pitch, and just really appreciative that that you joined us. And I know I speak for the fans that we're super excited for what you and Justin and the guys started to do last summer and are potentially going to be building off of for this summer. And good luck to your first year in charge down in Collegeville.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Should be fun. And just to be part of the club.
All right. Well, appreciate it. Have a good night.
See you. Bye.
And that will do it for this week's show, folks. We have to give a shout out to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. Our friends at footballstadiumprints.com are always expanding their soccer-focused t-shirt designs, prints, and more. Don't forget to use the code CROWS10 for 10% off everything you purchase. And remember, all U.S. orders ship right from the United States, so no pesky international shipping charges or tariffs either. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so you can feel good about your membership as it doubles as a charitable donation to the club that does good. Memberships for the 2025 season are still available. Get it before the season starts on Sunday, which is a matter of days away. Otherwise, as Dan noted, single game tickets are now on sale for this week's home opener as well as other home dates. Do you have anything you want us to cover? I mean, the offseason is pretty much over by the time you hear this. But if you have anything you want us to check in on during the season, connect with us on Instagram at People's Pitch Podcast. And yes, we're still on Twitter X. You can even email us if you have any questions or topics you want us to cover on the show. mcscpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can also connect with the club everywhere at MPLS City SC. That is all for this week's show, folks. I am John. That is Dan. Thank you so much, Dan, for filling in for Nate as he recovers from his tummy tuck. Really looking forward to seeing that new fancy dad bod, Nate. We'll recap the action of home game 1, the 2025 opener, and hopefully we'll get a little chat with another member of the coaching staff. But until next time, you got hooked.